everyone. My name's Tony Nucci. I work in Seattle, Washington in claims, and we're very, my wife Janelle and I are very honored to tell our son AJ's story today. And in fact, we feel we have a responsibility to tell that story. If you ask me who my hero is, it's my son. If you ask me who I've learned the most about life from, it's my son. And that's what is so important about these ERGs, right? Our diversity and inclusion efforts are put in place for you, the workplace, and the marketplace, right? And Dawn is very special to me because it impacts my work environment positively. It impacts my work environment positively and my organization's work environment positively, so we can talk about these things freely and transparently. And it affects the marketplace, and I'll honor our wonderful ambassador, Jessica Larson, by quoting what she always does during one of her events, which is, you never know what's beneath the waterline with our customers, right? They've just been through a traumatic event. They're upset, they're frustrated, they're angry. We are the personification of that in claims, at least, and even internal customers. And she always reminds us, you never know what's going on in that person's life. And we all have stuff, right? How do I work this thing? Green, okay. Big green arrow. There are 3 or 4, 4 big days in my son's life. The first was the day he was born, right? That's a big day for all of us. The second was his 18th month check-in. We have a wonderful pediatrician. And my son, very similar to Liz's story, he was running around, opening cabinets and that kind of thing. And then he started really flapping his arms like that because he was really excited to be there. And that is very much an AJism. He loves to flap his arms, and I understand now that that means he's really excited and happy about things. But he was 18 months old, and the doctor said, that's like the one syllable you never want to hear from a doctor about your child. And she said, that is an early warning sign of autistic behavior. And we had the immediate, denial. She's just excited. That's jumping to conclusions pretty early. So as time went on, we sort of began to accept that. We hadn't had an official diagnosis quite yet. And in fact, that's one of the other big days was the day he was officially diagnosed, which was after his 3-year-old birthday. The medical community was sort of reticent to stamp that on him because he was, borderline, quote unquote. And the twist was, without that diagnosis, you can't get a bunch of stuff covered or, be given access to different programs. So I remember that day. I'll never forget it, of course. We sit down with the doctor, the PhD, and, she sort of warms us up, and I already knew this was coming, and then she spits out that sentence, your son has officially been diagnosed with autism. And I think you're always hoping that that's not going to be the sentence, but it wasn't a huge surprise. And that it allowed us to go forward with the plan. The fourth sort of moment was about a year ago when my son had a really good back and forth interaction with me, which may not seem like a big deal to you, but it was to me. And he has more and more of those every single day. But here are some of our family mottos. The day we got that diagnosis, everything changed for us, but nothing changed. We walked out into the waiting room, and we had a friend watching our son in the waiting room, and he was asleep. And we're like, all right, let's wake him up and go home. We've got the rest of our lives to live. We have autism, but to the doctor's point here, that does not define us. And we do everything any other parent with children do, although sometimes it takes some planning. We have higher highs and lower lows. I heard somebody else describe that. I get really excited when my son does something that a typical developing child may be very common that they do. And we get pretty excited about little things. And of course, with that, there's a lot of frustrating stuff. The doctor also mentioned this, and this is true. If you've met one child with autism, you've met one child with autism. I get this a lot when I wear autism t-shirts and try to bring awareness and do stuff like this, and I'll have somebody come up to me and say, there's a lady at my church and her cousin's son has autism. I don't know what to do with that information. But I know they're trying to make that connection, but that person's autism could be far different than my son's autism. And, whether you believe in God or the cosmos or intelligent design or Kismet, we believe our son was given to us for a reason. So, we spend a lot of time on AJ's therapy and do lots of different things. We spent the last couple of years in ABA, Applied Behavioral Analysis. That's been really good for him. He was in a special needs class the last couple of years. He's entering a life program next year that we're excited about. So he goes to kindergarten. He spends, he goes into the typically developing kindergarten class for as long as he can take it, basically. So that might be 10 minutes, it might be 3 hours, it could be the whole day, probably not right away at least. But it'll be interesting, this stuff is just fascinating in general to watch this stuff. It'll be interesting to see what happens, but every single day he's going to spend time in that class. He was a speech therapy, he goes to sight therapy. I noticed he was very clumsy, which tends to be generally a common trait in autistics, but he would take a bottle and try to set it on the table and miss. And I kept noticing that, and my wife took him to a doctor, and sure enough, he had 30% depth perception in one eye. So that's why he's running into the corner of the wall when he's trying to turn. And that's him with those glasses. Those are not his glasses, those are the therapy glasses. We do a lot of OT, occupational therapy, big work and small work, like having him take tweezers and put them into different stuff, climbing rock walls, that kind of thing. He goes to PT, sleep therapy, that's him wrapped up his head wrapped up there. He has probably slept through the night 5 times in 5 years. If I could change anything, that might be it. But my wife, to her credit, deals with most of it and lets me sleep. She has a video monitor. She's probably slept with one eye open for the last 5 years watching that thing. We get him into sports. Like Liz, sometimes we'll just take off into the outfield and run around for an hour. All right, that's fine. You got your exercise. A lot of pharmacological stuff. We have him on clonidine, which is a blood pressure lowering medication, which sounds scary. It is to me. We have him on melatonin. He crashes, 20 minutes after being given that. And an hour later, he'll wake up like it's morning. So it's we're experimenting with different stuff, and those experiments go poorly sometimes as well and make for long nights. We've decided to sort of embrace it on the philanthropy side and the awareness side. We give talks whenever we can. We join social groups. We had a really cool. He did his ABA at the Autism Center, or the Providence Autism Center in Everett, Washington, north of Seattle. They were great people. They really loved AJ, so we decided to do a fundraiser for them. This was in April, Autism Awareness Month. We raised over $10,000 for the Autism Center, along with a bunch of progressive company matching, by the way. So that's how we sort of process some of this. Lots of strengths and opportunities like anybody else in the world, let alone on the spectrum. He's got an above average IQ, which is helpful. He's got a good emotional ID. What I mean is, family connection is big with him. He's got a lot of charm, and I don't think his teachers are just saying this, but he seems to be their favorite all the time. Anytime he's in different settings, because he's very lovable, he'll hug you. He's very, very emotional, very affectionate. He's been at 99th percentile size since the day he was born, height, weight, and head size, because they measure that. And I think that'll be important maybe later on in life, because kids can get picked on. Hey, if he's 6'4", 260, then maybe he won't get picked on as much. He's a trickster, and by that I mean like he, will try to scare you or whatever and do tricky things, and that's probably a good thing, because that's typical of kids, and not a lot of autistic children sort of get some of that. He'll make very bad jokes up. And I don't even think he realizes how sort of funny they are, but he's big into the Statue of Liberty, and I'll get into some of this too, but he loves the Statue of Liberty. And here's one of his jokes. Hey, Statue of Liberty, what are you doing? I'm just standing here, AJ. Get it? Just standing here. That'll sink in. It'll be funny as time goes on. He really likes musical instruments. I think there's something there with drums with him, because there's a lot of repetitive stuff going on there. We have a drum set in the living room, which is great. And every once in a while, you'll hear some actual music out of the corner of your ear, and he doesn't have any, teaching yet on it. Loves puzzles. He can do puzzles faster than I can. He's big into trains, big into Thomas. Eye contact, not very good at that, although the more comfortable he is with you, the more eye contact he makes. He's better with children or family who are more apt to be at his eye level, first of all, or more patient. He's a flight risk. He's a runner, meaning I cannot let go of his hand on a sidewalk or else he'll just run into traffic. We have a medical stroller for him, which we got mostly for appearance, because when he was in a regular stroller, he's this big kid, and everybody's like, what is this 5-year-old kid doing in a stroller? So we got a lot of those looks, which bother me far more than my wife. But the medical stroller's got like the pedals, and it looks more sort of medical. I think that's one of the tough things with AJ. He looks normal. He acts normal a lot of the time. Now when we've taken many flights, and we go to lots of dinners, and we don't restrict ourselves at all. But Liz talked about this at the end. I think I've almost gotten arrested a few times on airlines from other people's behavior and wanting to do some bodily harm to them. So I had I talk about autism a lot with my group, and we talk about a lot of the things that the doctor spoke of. And I had my admin assistant, Kelly Weiniger, ask me a question once we were driving to lunch, and he said, yeah, but what's it really like? Like, we talk about all this medical stuff, we can talk about the spectrum, but what's it really like every day? So I thought I'd share some of that briefly. We have AJ moments, we call. That's when, out of the blue, you can get pretty emotional about it. We have to try to discern what's autism and what's typical five-year-old behavior. We can do that pretty well. Certainly a labor of love for us. Some interesting, fun stuff, I guess. He can name he can do the presidents in order. He can tell you, if you ask him who the 19th president is, he can say it's Rutherford B. Hayes. I know that because we've had to learn this president thing because he has. Very into patriotism, loves the Statue of Liberty, loves the American flag, knows all the songs, My Country 'Tis of Thee, and the Star Spangled Banner, and all the songs, the words we're supposed to know the words to, and we don't. He knows those all. Very into skeletons and the anatomy. We have lots of skeletons in our house, like medical skeletons. We have anatomy puzzles. He can name the skeletal, all the skeletal parts, name all the organs and that kind of stuff. He has a crazy memory that's sort of scary sometimes. He makes fun of my wife because like 2 years ago she stepped on a wiggle. You know what the wiggles are if you have kids? I hate the wiggles, but he has these little figurines that are the wiggles, and she stepped on a wiggle and was like, I stepped on a wiggle. And like 2 years later, he made fun of her about that. She's like, what are you talking about? I stepped on a window. She's like, oh, yeah. About a year ago, this grocery bagger at Safeway helped my wife and son bring groceries to the car. And a year later, we sort of ran into that same one. We didn't make that connection. But he was like, oh, hey, John. And the kid's like, do I know you guys? And that was the first time he had seen him in a year. Stuff like that. Here's some of the quirky stuff. For about 6 months, we couldn't put anything on our coffee table in the living room. If we put something on the coffee table, he would take it off and go, thank you. So we had a blank coffee table for about 6 months, and then it went away one day for no reason. Then it was okay to put stuff on there. You can't wear sunglasses or your glasses on your head around him. Before he goes to bed, he can run around the kitchen island 10 or 20 or 30 times. And it's a way of, I think, spending the energy he needs to spend to try to get to bed. We went to a baseball game recently, and he's been to several, but this time around he didn't want to go into the tunnel to go to your seat. And he was like a, cornered animal in that regard. And we just didn't go sit down, right? We just walked around for 3 hours and went to the little playground they had and that kind of stuff. He loves beards and mustaches. Why? I have no idea, but he makes me grow them, and now I don't have one because they're visiting in-laws, and where I'm going to pick them up tomorrow, and the first thing he's going to say is, hi, Daddy, where's your beard? I know that's going to happen, so I'll start growing it right now. You can't say the word that. You have to say this. Do you want this? Or do you want that? No, this. Okay, do you want this? You can't say all right. You have to say okay. Are you all right? No, okay. He's into ties and belts, and I have to tuck my shirt in all the time recently. So that's really great when you have a t-shirt on and you're, trying to wear shorts, and I'm like the dork dad going to the grocery store. Let's see. He has uh-oh moments that I call. When he says uh-oh, you're about to have a problem. And it's usually like he'll break something, some toy that's very precious to him. You just hear him going, uh-oh. That means we're going to have a problem. And I'm probably going to go out and run out to the store and go buy the exact same thing in a hurry. But this is our reality, right? I'm over sort of the 5 stages of grief with this thing, and it's things like this that help us process what we're going through. And anyway, I'm just happy to talk about them. So, thank you.